My husband took care of my daughter most of the time since I had bad flashbacks whenever I saw her face from when I was assaulted. As she grew up, it died down a bit, but I would still get these horrible panic attacks when I saw her wearing boys' clothes and short hair. Since I was prone to having panic attacks, Luna ended up being closer to my husband than she was to me. Also, she often got a little more than her siblings from my husband as compensation because of me. We never told her that she was the product of intimate assault because I was too ashamed, and my husband did not want her feeling different from her siblings. I often told her that I and her biological father got into an altercation and never spoke to one another ever again. About 2 years ago, she got one of those DNA test items and found out she had a relative in the system. The relative got Luna in touch with her bio dad and started talking despite my protests. He wanted to speak to me about something he wanted to tell me, so Luna attempted to persuade me to speak with him. I made her aware that her father and I shouldn't ever be in the same room together. Now, Luna is getting married to a lovely young man. The original plan was to have my husband walk her down the aisle, but he had gotten into a bad accident, leaving him in a wheelchair until his legs were strong enough to support his weight again. However, this is not her idea of a picture-perfect wedding day, so she invited her biological father to be the bride's father. Her wedding invitation not only invited my rapist, but she disrespected the man who raised her. Although a bridesmaid or I could have pushed him down the aisle, she thought it would not fit the vibe of the wedding. My husband looked so shocked and upset that she would even think of this, but I was furious. I have a visceral hate for that man and let her know I would not be anywhere near him. She told me that this was what she wanted and that she was not changing her mind, so I told her I would not attend if he were there. She got upset and told me that I shouldn't hang on to the past, but I told her that she doesn't know what happened between me and her biological father, so she shouldn't stick her nose where it doesn't belong. Though I feel terrible about what I said and how I said it, and I can't be blamed for her being born or not knowing what happened since I never told her, I still feel as though my wishes should be respected if I say I don't want to be in the same room as someone. Second post, I decided to stop running away and tell her everything. I called her to come over, and she did. I first apologized for yelling at her for her suggestion because, in her mind, it was an innocent suggestion. I told her that I wasn't angry at her, but how fast she was willing to replace her father because he was in a wheelchair, and that anger was compounded because she brought up her genetic father. I apologized again for acting childish and not like an adult. She asked me why I was so against her genetic father being in the same vicinity as I am, and I just told her everything from our initial friendship to her forced conception. She didn't believe me, but I could get a copy of the court case records and offer them to her if she needed a look. She looked stunned as if she wanted to believe me but couldn't. I apologized for keeping all this from her because I didn't know how to bring it up. She told me she didn't believe me and would confirm with her genetic father, so I told her to take the time she needed to process all this. Later that day, she came again, crying and apologizing for not believing me. I held her and cried and apologized, too. It was kind of therapeutic. We had a long chat, and I felt closer to her. When we were done, she said she wanted to take me out to a surprise to help me feel better in a couple of days, which I happily agreed to. Yesterday, I saw her in this little restaurant with a patio and a private pay-for-use area. She ran up to me, hugged me, and led me to the patio, where her biological father stood. She told me he was here to apologize and start my healing journey. I just wanted to leave, but he grabbed my hand, and all those memories I had tried to repress returned. I started having a panic attack and lost my balance, too, and he tried to help me keep my balance, which worsened everything. I honestly don't remember how I left, but I ended up in my car just sobbing. I called my elder son to pick me up because I could not drive them. Today, my daughter called me, upset that I had ruined her surprise, but I was troubled with her. I asked her why she did that when she knew everything that happened between me and him, and she tried to use the excuse of my healing journey, but I didn't have it. She admitted wanting me to get used to him because he would walk her down the aisle with my husband and do the daddy-daughter dance. I told her that while I loved her and respected her decision to be with him, I was unwilling to be anywhere he was. She started complaining about how she wanted all her family to be there, and I'm still not forgiving, but I hung up the phone. My husband knows everything and stands by me for not attending her wedding, but I don't want this. If my other children were to know, they would stand by me and tell the rest of their extended family, leading to my daughter being disowned by the family. Third post, my eldest boy is the only one with a slight idea of what happened, but the other two were unaware. I was quite scared and anxious to tell them what happened, especially because my mother and other family members initially reacted negatively. I invited them around 2 weeks ago for a family dinner and told them everything that happened with the conception of my youngest and what happened recently. They were silent and stared at me, so I became nervous until my daughter started crying. It was so upsetting for her, and my 2 sons were pissed off at my youngest and her father. They asked why I didn't tell them earlier, and I told them I was just scared of how they could have reacted. I didn't hear anything from them until last Wednesday. I was on Facebook when I saw my elder daughter's post calling out my younger daughter for not only ignoring the man who raised her but siding with her mothers are pissed and re-traumatizing her. My boys also made similar posts, dragging her name through the mud. I had so many direct messages but didn't want anything to do with them, so I deleted the app from my phone. Since I don't like people knowing about my personal life, I asked my kids to take down the post. They said they did, but I haven't re-downloaded the app to find out. My youngest husband would have come to my house with his mother to apologize. He told me he broke off the engagement because he couldn't be with someone who treated their parents like that. His mother told me how disgusted she was with my daughter's actions. Someone like that would never be a part of her family. I was honestly stunned by all the support I received. It's one thing to receive support online, but receiving it in real life was surreal. I am slightly disappointed because I wanted my daughter's former fiancé to join the family as he is a lovely and sweet boy. Still, he has boundaries in a relationship that my daughter unfortunately crossed. As for my youngest, she is furious with me. She sent me a nasty voicemail saying that I ruined her life. Her friends and fiancé cut her off. I felt sorry because I had attempted to avoid this situation. I went through what she is experiencing, and I know exactly what it feels like. I told my therapist about this, and she told me that the difference is that while I was the victim, my daughter brought it on herself. My therapist is probably right, but I can't stop this feeling of dread. I tried to call my daughter, but I hung up once I heard her father on the line. He took it upon himself to let me know that my daughter was depressed because of my actions. I feel terrible for treating my daughter like this. My husband says I should focus on myself, and I'm trying to, but I just can't stop worrying. I don't think that my daughter is safe when she's with her biological father.